What I would recommend is, well, we know you have to call the default people. Default resolution group, I think, is that company name. So do that, number one.
Yes.
Okay. And then everything else is with Nelnet. So you can do the rest of this with Nelnet. The loan simulator really just helps you to try and pinpoint what payment is going to fix your loan, fit your financial situation best. Okay. That is what the loan simulator is. I don't like it because if you aren't using real numbers, it's only gonna, was it garbage in, garbage out? So it doesn't really benefit you unless you know exactly what your numbers are. So if you're gonna use it, be sure you use real numbers. Okay. All right. So standard repayment, is where this is for everybody. Okay. And your payments are set at a fixed amount that ensures that they are paid off within 10 years. Okay. So, and this is per loan. This is not the whole thing. Right. So if you only had a $5,000 loan, standard repayment wouldn't be a problem because they would set your loan payment and it would be like $80 a month for 10 years and you're done in 10 years. And if you want to accelerate it, you can. Not a big deal. Remembering that student loan interest accrues every day. Okay. So these are all these little pieces that you have to be sure are aligned. Okay. So this is eligible for direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans. So this is you have both of those. You don't have any of these. You don't have plus. You do have plus loans because your graduate loans are plus loans. Okay. That's a definition of a graduate loan. It's either a plus loan for parents taking out loans for their kids or for graduate school, but they are direct subsidized and unsubsidized, so you're fine. Okay. The things that are good to know is that you will usually pay less over time. Why? Because you pay the set amount every month. You're paying enough to cover interest. Okay. That is key. You're paying enough to cover interest. It's painful for a minute sometimes if you have more than $5,000 in student loans. So this would be equivalent to taking your $140,000 mortgage and paying it off in 10 years. Okay.
That sounds ouchy.
It's ouchy. I like. Okay. Now, your $140,000 is going to be $1,000 lighter because you're going to go in and knock out those $200-300 loans and that five. Right. So actually, I think it's probably closer to $1,500. So you're going to knock those out. So that's going to drop your balance a little bit, and that impacts your loans. Okay. But this is still viable for you, and you can put some of your loans on standard, and you can put others on other plans. Do you remember seeing that you had some loans on one plan and some loans on another plan?
Yes.
So you can do that. So maybe you put your lower loans, your smaller loans on standard repayment. You get to figure that out. And this is where you keep calling back to Nelnet until you get someone who's willing to work with you to go through. And this is where that loan simulator might be beneficial for you. Okay. Do you see what I'm saying? So if I know that these loans are 5,000, let's say anything under 10,000, you put on standard repayment, and you put those numbers in along with the interest rate, and that will help you to see what that payment is going to be. Okay. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's something good to know. Okay. Like I said, you will pay less over time. You will be done in 10 years. But if you want public student loan forgiveness, this is not a loan repayment plan that aligns with public service loan forgiveness. That's not you. Right. So this is definitely something you would want to consider, maybe for some of your loans, if not all of them, depending on what the numbers shake out to be. We use the graduated repayment plan. Okay. So again, everybody is eligible. So what happens here is the payments are lower at first, and then they increase usually every 2 years and are for an amount that will ensure that your loans are paid off within 10 years. So and again, your loans qualify. So this is what we use. Okay. This is the one that we have. So your loan payment, and again, this is for each loan individually. So what you have to remember is that each loan payment is going to be added together,
Right.
so that one bigger payment is what's coming out to cover all of your loans. Okay. So if you see $50, $50, $50, $50, that's going to be a $3,000 or $4,000 payment total because of all the loans that you have. So don't forget that when you were setting these payment plans up, it's for each individual loan. That's how people get overwhelmed and they're like, I have a $3,000, $4,000 student loan payment. You have 24 loans.
Okay.
Because you have 24 loans.
I'm glad you put it like that.
Okay. So, I can do $50 a month. Yeah. 50 times 20 is a lot. Even if we knock out those other 4, it takes us down to 20 loans. 50 times 20 is a boatload of money. So this is how people get themselves in trouble when they think, I'm just going to do a $50 loan. Okay. So that makes a difference. Okay.
All right. You wouldn't have said something.
Yeah, but you literally, so let's say you have 20 loans because you're going to knock out those 4 under 1,000 loans. Okay. So you have 20 loans. The more you pay over time, you'll pay more over time than the standard repayment. Okay. The other thing to keep in mind with graduated repayment is that notice how it says that it usually increases every 2 years. It doesn't increase every 2 years. It increases every 24 months. Okay. And if you pay extra, you will eat into that 24 months. So let's say you have a $50 payment on just one loan. That's on graduated repayment. Okay. And you decide this month I'm going to pay $100. You just made 2 graduated payments. So instead of having 20 months left on graduated repayment, you only have 18. Okay. And when you get to 0 on that tier, it bumps you up to the next tier because automatically. Okay. So once we became aware of that, we were still okay with it. It just means you need to be sure that you can commit to the new bigger payment amount. Okay. So not a bad thing. I always say when you know the rules, you can win the game. We freak out when it changes and we don't know why. This is why it's going to change. Okay. This is a great strategy if you're serious about getting rid of your loans. Okay. Because you're not paying more interest than you need to, and you're moving through, you're clipping through. Okay. So that's a good thing. The extended repayment plan is eligible for you in some of yours. And I don't know if this is 30,000 for one loan or 30,000 for all of them. I'm not sure about that. So you'll want to ask that question. The only difference between extended and regular graduated repayment is that you get 25 years to pay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Extended repayment is if you have more than 30,000 in loans. Instead of you paying it off in 10 years, they will give you up to 25 years to pay them off. Okay. So that means that your payment is going to be amortized over a longer period of time. You're paying more interest. Okay.
Real house note.
Real house note. Yes. This is a real house note. Your monthly payment is going to be lower, okay, on the 10-year standard or graduated, which means you're going to pay more over time. Okay. And again, this doesn't apply to you because you're not doing the public student loan forgiveness program. So this would make this a great option for you, recognizing what your payments need to be. You need to manage your payments. Okay, let's talk about save. Okay, so let's talk about save. Now, we said earlier that repay is going away. So I'm not going to talk about repay because if anybody is currently in repay, they're not anymore, they're in save. Okay, so save is the new plan coming out of COVID. Okay, any direct loan which you have is eligible for this plan. Okay, your monthly payment is based on 10% of your discretionary income. Discretionary income, not your full income. So there's a calculation that's going to be done that will tell you whether or not your loan, what your discretionary income is. And so once they know what that number is, let's say you have a discretionary amount of $100 a month, then your payment is only going to be $10, okay, per loan, okay? Payments are recalculated every year, okay, and are based on your updated income and family size. What they are requesting is that you sign up to basically link your tax return to the Department of Education, and they will pull that information automatically from your tax return. Okay. I highly recommend that, because then you don't have to remember to recertify, because there are penalties if you don't. Okay. That only becomes a challenge with people who don't file their taxes on time. Okay. As long as you're filing your taxes on time, do that. All right. Then you must update your income and family size each year, even if it hasn't changed. You must do that. So I would mark it on my calendar when you set this up. Let's say you set up the majority of your loans on Save, mark it on your calendar 30 days, 45 days before that time. So if you do it on September 1st, then you would be doing that in July to August of next year and every year thereafter, to be sure, because it says even if it hasn't changed. Here's what I talked about earlier. If you're married, your spouse's income or loan debt will be considered only if you file a joint return. So that is a caveat, that is a change. Okay. In the past, your spouse had to be a part of this regardless of whether you file single, married filing single or married filing joint. But as I mentioned earlier, if you are married filing joint, you currently have the opportunity to deduct your student loan interest. If you're not married filing joint, you can't do that. And that's how they're recouping the cost of some of this, because you're going to end up paying more taxes on your tax return because you're not married filing joint. So that's a look. They're not going to tell you that, but that's how they're recouping the cost of this program. Okay. Again, if you're a person who doesn't hit the standard deduction, then you're fine. But if you normally go over the standard deduction, then this is something you certainly want to consider.
Standard deduction
on your taxes. So I think right now standard deduction is $20,500, $23,500 for married couples filing joints. And so that number changes every year. And so whatever that number is for the tax year, if you go over the standard deduction, then you can use the interest that you're paying on your student loan as a part of getting over that standard deduction. So let's say the standard deduction is $20,000 and you and your husband together make $100,000. That means you're only going to pay taxes on $80,000. Okay. If you go over the standard deduction because you have student loan interest and your deductions are now $25,000, you're only going to pay taxes on $75,000. Okay. So that's what that means. But if you are married and you file separately, you can't use that extra $5,000 in our example because you didn't file joint. Okay. So they don't tell you that, but that's what that's all about. Okay. Yeah.
Tax guy.
So what we did the first year we got married, we had our accountant run both. So run us separate, married filing separate, and run us married filing joint. That's when we found out that the interest on the student loans only applied if you're married filing joint. Okay. So have your accountant run both and then see which one pans out. Okay. I almost guarantee you it will be more money in your pocket to file joint. Okay. Here's a caveat. Any outstanding balance on your loan will be forgiven if you haven't repaid the loan in full after 20 years. If all the loans were taken out for undergraduate, or for 25 years if any of the loans were taken out for graduate or professional study. So you're basically saying that you're on the hook for these loans for 25 years.
How long has that been implemented?
This is new as of July. Okay. All right. Now, a couple things to be mindful of. You will pay more over time. Okay. And you may have to pay income taxes on any amount that is forgiven. This is currently federal is not allowing, is saying you don't have to. We don't know how long that's going to be in place. And state is following federal for most states. But 20 years from now, we don't know that that is going to be the case because we don't know if that's going to continue to be something that they say you don't have to pay for. Okay. But that's a discussion that's 20 to 25 years in the making. And I'm just going to say, with the amount of deficit that we have, I can't see where that's going to stay in place. So just be mindful of what you're coming into. Okay. Pay as you earn is what you're on now, and it is viable for you. Your monthly payments are going to be 10% of your discretionary income, but they will never be more than what you would have paid if you were on the standard plan. Well, if it's only 10% of your discretionary income, you know that. Okay. Exactly. So you still have to make your changes. And so this one is good for you if you have a high debt relative to your income. I can't see how it's very different than save, in all honesty. Okay. Because all the differences, all the things that are good to know are the things that are good to know on save. Okay. Your income-based repayment plan is also better if you have high debt. And so again, it's either 10 or 15%. So all of these are just variations of save. I feel like all of these are going to go away. Okay. And save is going to become your new plan. That's why I'm just telling people, you know, you can just put yourself in save and go from there. Okay. Because again, your payments are never going to be more than, but that doesn't help you. So income contingent repayment plans, this one is a little different. Again, you're eligible for this one because anybody with an eligible loan type is eligible for this. This is 20% of your discretionary income, and the amount that you would pay on this plan would be a fixed payment over 12 years. Adjusted according to your income. This one might not be a bad option for you, Mary, when you think about the fact that you want to actually pay your loans off, right? So it extends it from 10 years to 12 years, and it gives you a little bit of, so it's almost like the standard with the income one, because your payment is adjusted based on what your income is. So I would consider this one. Your payment is recalculated every year. You still have to do all of your other checks and balances. And if you're married, your spouse's income is also included only if you do a joint return. And so you would have to pay it in, any balance would be forgiven if it's not paid in full in 25 years. So I would consider that one. Right. Yeah. Income sensitive, I feel like this one is going away because save is going to sort of take over on this one. And so your loan will be paid in 15 years versus 20 or 25. Okay. And notice this one isn't even eligible for you because you don't have federal family education loans. You have direct loans. So this one doesn't even apply to you. And then you don't have Perkins. I found this under a different website, but some of the things that are on this site we haven't discussed yet. So I just want to make sure you understand. So this plan will decrease your payment by 150 to 225% of the poverty line. So the purpose of SAVE is to make sure that those people with a super low income that got student loans and in most instances never got jobs or high paying jobs, they are stuck with the loans. And so this is to help them. Okay. Remember, anything on save, 20 to 25 years in your case. Okay. So it will decrease the amount of your monthly payment. This talks about how that gets there in terms of making sure that it's your adjusted gross income is lower than 150 to 225% of the poverty line, which changes every year. Okay. And so this also means that you will not owe loans if you're a single borrower of less than 32,000 or a family of four owing 67,000. Neither of those apply to you, but I would certainly look at filing joint with your husband. But you would be filing joint with your husband in 23. So for 22, you have to, for right now, you would have to use your 22 tax return.
Yes.
So that doesn't mean you can't update the numbers.
Okay.
Okay, so you would start it based on where you are, and then you would make the updates.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So this is important. The plan eliminates 100% of the remaining interest for both subsidized and unsubsidized loans after the scheduled payment is made. This is a huge shift. If you make your monthly payment, your loan balance won't grow due to unpaid interest, which is what it does right now. Okay. In most instances, on an income-based repayment plan, an IDR, income-driven repayment plan, IDR, if your payment is $50 and you are accruing interest on a daily basis, you're accruing more than $50 worth of interest. And so your loan actually gets bigger every month as opposed to getting smaller. Under the SAVE plan, they will not charge you any of the unpaid interest. That is how that zero payment doesn't continue to balloon.
Wow.
Okay. For example, if $50 in interest accumulates each month and you have a $30 payment, the remaining $20 would not be charged.
Wow.
This is huge.
Yeah.
Okay. The SAVE plan excludes spousal income. This change removes the need for your borrower or your spouse to co-sign for your IDR application. Okay, so this is huge. So this is very important. So this tells you all the your loans. And so this is where it says direct plus loans made to graduate. This is you.
Yes.
Okay. It does not work for parent plus loans, just graduate school plus loans. Okay. So you are eligible for SAVE. The other thing that's important, if your loans are in default, you must qualify for the Fresh Start program to get your loans back in good standing before you can put them into SAVE. So that's why you need to do those with the MOHELA ones, okay? So this is where you're going to see this graph. Everybody's showing this graph. This only applies if you're making less than 60,000. They're not showing that.
Right.
Okay. So if you make more than 60,000, your payment is going to be more than $227 a month. Okay. Very important. And then the other thing this just gives an example. Here are some other changes. Oh, these are other changes that are coming to other plans. I scrolled by this a little fast earlier. So they are still revamping SAVE, which means your payment might get lower. Okay. But again, if you're trying to get out of debt, you don't want your payment lower, right? So, but I do want to point that out. We talked about the linking your tax return to the Department of Education so that you can do your annual recertification electronically. This is highly recommended. And the reason is because then they just pull it. Okay. Oh, this is important. Okay. End of interest capitalization when a borrower leaves most income-driven repayment plans. As of July 1st, 2023, unpaid interest on your loans won't be added to your principal when you leave any income-driven repayment plan except for the income-based repayment plan. Be sure that, and if you're in an income-based repayment plan right now, then it has to capitalize anyway. Okay. Okay, because you're already in it. Gotcha. So just heads up that once you change out, then
and go to the SAVE.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that might be a question for them because they're trying to keep you from having to do all the interest. So I would definitely ask that. Okay. And so if you borrows with original principal balances of 12,000, original balances, okay, of 12,000 or more will be forgiven after 10 years of payments. Okay. So you're still, with a maximum repayment rising for every year. So if you had 14,000 as your original, then it would be forgiven in 12 years. Okay, this hasn't happened yet. These are things that are proposed. Borrowers who consolidate will keep their progress towards forgiveness, but you see now why I don't recommend consolidating because you have so many of those low 3% and 4% loans. I don't think that's a good idea. Borrowers will automatically receive credit toward forgiveness for specific periods of deferment and forbearance. That means that all of that time in COVID would have still counted. Okay. This is important. Borrowers can make additional catch-up payments to get credit for all other periods of deferment or forbearance. So if you were in forbearance or deferment, then you can catch up by making extra payments. And then this is important. Borrowers who are 75 days late will automatically be enrolled in an income-driven repayment plan if they have agreed to allow the U.S. Department of Education access to their tax return.
Well, sure, yeah, go right on ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, people
Yeah.
always like, yeah.
Right. So this talks about how the payment can be zero. It's based on your income. And so you don't have to do anything if you have a zero monthly payment. And then this is important. It says if you have additional money in your budget to pay down your student loan, you can always set a custom payment amount each month, even if you have a zero payment.
That is freaking awesome.
This is new. In the past, if you tried to pay extra, it was almost as if you were penalized if you were on an income-driven repayment plan.
Yes.
Because what they would say is, oh, you got money. So if you got money, then we're going to increase your payment. So under the plan, so this would be why SAVE might still be an option for you, because it keeps your payment low, but it gives you the opportunity to pay extra. Okay, this is huge. So,
and this is right now. This is not next year.
No, this is right now.
Okay.
Yep. And so if you apply close to, so this is why, so this one, can I apply for an income-driven repayment plan after your bill has been generated? This is why you want to have these conversations right now before your bill is generated, because your bill hasn't been generated yet.
Okay.
Okay. And then I would call to make sure that you are working with someone who can work through all of your loans. Okay.
So when I call, start off with that first.
Yes. Now remember, you have two different servicers, so you need to have, you're making two calls, right?
Making one to the net, and then I'm making one to the default people.
Right. So NailNet is where everybody is except for the two that are in default. If possible, I would pay off those little ones before you call.
But don't I call Net to pay them off?
You can pay them off by going to their website. Put in multiple applications. You want one application per servicer, I believe. Yeah. So, and the reason is because then you're in the system multiple times. And
when I call.
Right. So don't call and set it up and then go online and set up another one.
Okay.
Don't do two.
Don't do two.
Just do one.
Okay.
Okay. And that's everything. So that's why I wanted to go through this page, because this has a lot more granular information than I found on the regular site. Okay. Yes. Any questions?
I feel better. I was just so, I was so tight. I was so tense.
I know.
Like, look, I think I've been tense for since 2013.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes to the loan.
Yeah.
But
you can do this.
I don't.
You can do this.